Hello everybody, this is HG Shaves here. I'm back with another video. Very happy to be with you again. Hope everyone is doing well. Thanks for the feedback regarding last week's video. It was mostly positive, even from the non-Spanish speakers. So I think I will continue to do some of those videos in the future, perhaps when I have another new product from Spain that I'd like to share. So thanks again for watching. Right, today is the last day of sort of freedom for me because I will be participating in Austere August this year like I did last year, which is where we use the same thing every day for the month of August. And so this week I decided to use some things that people had either sent to me and I've been waiting to try out, or recent acquisitions like this new short comb from Gillette. This one has been replated in nickel by London Razors here in the US, not London in England. And he did a really wonderful job, a very reasonable price. And he actually, I bought the razor and the replate all at once. So sometimes even if he doesn't have, like for example, this specific razor listed on the site, you might be able to ask him, hey, do you have a short comb, long comb that hasn't been replated, but you could, and then what would be the bundled price on that? I think that is something that he's willing to do for people. So the way you know that it's a short comb is that basically the edge of the base plate, I couldn't think of it, sticks kind of more outward, whereas on a long comb, it's angled more down. And also the comb itself is a little bit shorter, but for me, that's difficult for me to tell because it's like, okay, it's short relative to another base plate, which is also pretty small. So the way I look at it is by the angle at which this base plate sticks out. And this particular one, made in the USA. I think the short combs were only made in the USA. If anyone knows otherwise, please feel free to correct me. Whereas the long combs were made in England. And so it would seem to me that the short comb is a bit less common, perhaps, in the whole world of vintage Gillettes, maybe not here in the US. But anyway, I have some friends that prefer this as their favorite vintage Gillette, and I haven't used one of these in a long time, and so I thought this week I would pull it back out, and I'll let you know how my week has been with it when we get to the shave. And this is a 3-piece razor. This is a hollow, I think they call this like a common bar handle. There are a lot of razors that they sold with this handle. And then the base plate has that cut out through the middle, which helps hold the blade in place with the bar here. And for our blade today, I'll just load the razor with you, why not? For the blade today, we're still using the Wizamet Super Iridium. Maybe sometime after August, I'll use some sort of other DE blade, but these work pretty well for me, and well, it's just taken one less choice out of the equation for me, just knowing that I'm going to use that particular blade. So the interesting thing about this razor is that the way the area here in the center is cut out, like you can't really put a washer on there. It doesn't really allow the handle to screw in properly. And so for the first time in quite some time, I'm actually not using a little nylon washer today. And yeah, the blade alignment looks wonderful, and we'll talk more about this razor as we go. For the soap, we're using a sample of Grooming Epiphenomenon. I think I'm saying that right. This is Scott's newest barbershop scent. He used to have this one called Bandwagon, but then he discontinued it. I think this was the one he released to kind of make up for that. So to me, it's a surprisingly fruity barbershop. He doesn't list any notes, so you're kind of up to your own guesses as to what you think's in there. Definitely powdery, but also a bit more fruity than other barbershops I've smelled. Like, almost smells like cherry. I don't know if that's at all right. Probably not. But anyway, that's what it smells like to me, and it's a pleasant barbershop scent, right? We'll talk more about barbershop scents as we go. Also going to be using a very special brush that is on loan, once again, from my friend in Mexico. Thanks very much, dude. This is a Franklin shape from Declaration Grooming, and this is a B1 batch, the very first batch of hair that Scott ever made. This is a huge knot, I don't know, 30 millimeters, something like that. And the hair Doesn't seem overly treated or anything. It seems relatively natural, maybe with a little bit of treatment on the very edge of the tips, but to me, I notice how there's a pretty big long band of black brown here in the middle before we get to these tips, whereas on some other knots the tip might come further down, the light color aspect. So very special brush, and I'm happy to be using it this week. Let's go ahead and start loading the soap, This knot, because it is so big, you really need to make sure that you get enough soap loaded onto it. This is a generous amount of soap, I guess at least half a teaspoon, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's just barely what I need for 3 passes today. So as I mentioned, I'm doing Austere August, and I encourage any and all of you who are interested, whether you're on Reddit or not on Reddit, to join us in that. Just use some amount of the same gear all month. You don't have to be crazy like some of us who are using the same blade the entire month as well, like not changing the blade. And I'm particularly excited to be working with a few guys on a kind of side contest, because people will sponsor side contests basically. And this particular one is related to the Gem Micromatic open comb. A few of us think that there's a bad reputation about that razor for being super aggressive, and only certain kinds of people can use it, and we don't necessarily think that's true. We think it's kind of a misunderstood razor, if you will. So I will be joining my colleagues in that challenge, and I look forward to really getting to know that razor. I mean, I've used it for a few weeks, kind of off and on probably in my time, but I haven't spent a month with it straight. So I'm looking forward to doing that and seeing what I can learn. I'll be, if I can, still try to put out 1 video a week, but because it's the same gear, I'll have to kind of choose my topics of what I want to talk about, because I can't just review all 4 products, 4 times. The lather here, I waited to add water because this knot holds a lot of water, and so it's kind of that double-edged sword of, it's nice it holds water, but you need to be aware of it, and so you don't want to add water too quickly, I found. And so because Milk Steak is such a soft soap, that's the base for Epiphenomenon, of course, because it's so soft, the soap really just gets taken right up. And so I wanted to wait to make sure I didn't overwater the soap to start, but it's actually, I mean, I have added no water and it's already looking fantastic. So let's go ahead and move into a face lather now, and just get some water on the face real quick. And then we will go ahead and get into this face lather. Here we go. So the knot has a good amount of backbone, which is not surprising, and it's soft. I think this has been used a good amount over its life, which is a good thing. And yeah, I think it's a pretty nice knot. I like the handle. I just wish the knot were a little bit smaller. This feels just a little bit too big for me. But very densely packed and backbone, but not too much backbone, even by my standards. And you all know how I feel about dense badger brushes that have too much backbone in them. Not a fan. I think we're really pretty close to where we want to be. Sometimes you get lucky and it's just exactly how you want it without doing much. So let's see. I'll keep working this in and I'll bring it back in. We're about to start the first pass. All right, we're back. And as I mentioned, sometimes you just get lucky. You start with the right amount of water, you put the right amount of soap in your bowl, and you start off with something pretty decent without having to do too much work. If you hear music or singing in the background, no, you're not going crazy. That's just my wife, we're on a bit of a different schedule today, and so she happens to be teaching at the moment. So here we go. First pass with the new short comb with the Wizamet Super Iridium blade. So the number one, well, the two biggest differences between this razor and the Persona that I used last week, that's kind of tech-like, let's say. The two biggest differences are, this is more aggressive, it's more blade forward, and also this razor you do not have to ride the cap as much. Again, in this case, the blade just kind of sticks out more than that Persona. And with the Persona, the angle was really built into the cap, I'd say. Whereas this, maybe you have to find it more on your own. The razor kind of doesn't just tell you. However, again, there is plenty of blade feel with this. And so I think instead of using, the razor's geometry to help you figure out what angle to use, you can use kind of the feedback like the feedback of the razor cutting to let you know if you're doing the right thing or not. Whereas with that Persona, it was too mild. Sometimes you couldn't tell and it just wouldn't be cutting. So that's a big difference. I think I did mention this handle is hollow, so it's head heavy, and sometimes it makes it feel a little awkward balance-wise. But I've gotten a little bit more used to it. Let me just rinse off this real quick. I've got a soup bowl going here, but there's not enough water in it, so I'm kind of like really delving down there. So for example, this is a heavier razor than that Persona from last week, but this is more head heavy. It's not as balanced. So sometimes you wish you had the lighter razor that's more, well balanced. If I remember, I will leave a link for London razors. They have a nice Etsy page where they outline their services and things like that. That part of my face right there, that pass I just did, for some reason I found that to be the most difficult on the first pass specifically. Something like I just can't get the angle and there's so much hair that it kind of tugs a little bit. So what I found to do is just keep it super light, don't worry about getting everything, and then actually it's easier as I go because there's less hair. And so when I do the next couple passes, it's no problem. All right, that's the first pass. We'll rinse and then bring it back in for pass number 2 in just a moment. Okay, here's pass number 2. Here's pass number 2 across the grain mostly. Second pass down, that was really, really nice. For some reason that across the grain, going like, especially like this way, felt really, really nice. So here we go, rinse and then final pass, third pass. Third and final pass. Went ahead and squeezed out the remaining lather in the brush. Not surprisingly, there's quite a bit in there, so why not? Here's the third pass against the grain with the new short comb. This pass has been a little hit or miss for me this week, but hopefully goes well. So for me, you know, maybe in the future I'll have to do a direct side-by-side comparison with the new long comb and this new short comb, but I have used the long comb a fair bit. I mean, not recently, but in my history I have. And I always thought that razor to be kind of mild, maybe medium at most. Like that razor would be one of my examples of an open comb razor that is not aggressive really. At least the various British versions that I had tried. I'm not as familiar with the American ones actually. But anyway, I would consider this to be an aggressive razor. So I'm surprised when I hear people say the opposite. I do agree with a couple of my friends who say that they like this razor more because it's just more, gives you more feedback. I can definitely see where, and by feedback, I guess I don't mean audio, I guess I mean more like blade feel. Because the long comb that I've tried, I could see where that would be a little bit disappointing. And that sometimes there's really not much blade feel at all. At least with the British ones that I've tried, as I said. But yeah, this is a nice aggressive razor option. Similar to the new Deluxe. In terms of aggression, efficient. So if you want something that's not as expensive as the Deluxe or difficult to find, but you want an aggressive vintage Gillette, I think this is a great option. This is really a little bit more aggressive than I would want, but it's been fun to use anyway. And of course, it's nice to have a freshly replated nickel one. I'm not as big of a gold guy. I tend to like nickel, rhodium. I kind of blame that on the vintage Gillettes. So yeah, for me, this third pass is by far the least comfortable one. And now I'll just feel around to see if I have any loose hairs. Again, I'd say by vintage Gillette standards, this is a pretty efficient and aggressive razor. So not too many touch-ups, which is good. Yeah, close shave. I don't think I got too much irritation or any weepers or anything. But yeah, I just wish that third pass were maybe a little bit more comfortable. Maybe I need to work on my technique, obviously, or I could try doing just another across the grain pass instead, because that was so comfortable and nice. It's interesting that the against was not so nice. Anyway, go do my final rinse, then come back and talk to you over a special aftershave. So I'll be right back. For aftershave today, going to be using Noble Otter Orbit. I know I did a review of the soap recently. Can't remember if I've shown you all the splash yet or not. I did pick this up at my local store, Mertz Apothecary, otherwise known online as Q Brothers or Small Flower. That's their other site. And man, I've really enjoyed this splash. Call me surprised. As you all know, I am not a big fan of mentholated stuff, but the synthetic cooling to me is just a, you know, kind of a 21st century solution to a menthol kind of issue. You know, the smell, and well, this is also has the ability to be more kind of powerful too if you want it to be. If I'm not mistaken, I believe different people's skin reacts differently. With this pro tip here, make sure you rinse your hands a little bit, because if you accidentally touch something or someone and you've got that synthetic cooling, might take you or them by surprise. But yeah, this has been very nice. I've really enjoyed using this. This kind of a rose eucalyptus kind of scent. And the cooling for me lasts maybe 30 minutes, which is kind of about what I want. I can feel the cooling as I'm kind of cleaning up after the shave, getting ready to do my day. So I really enjoyed Noble Otter Orbit. So check it out. All right, let's do a quick recap of what we used. We used the new short comb with the Wizamet blade. Pretty aggressive, but I think manageable, not crazy, and a good, relatively cheap option if you want to get an aggressive vintage Gillette. So there you go. The soap was Epiphenomenon, the barbershop from Declaration Grooming. Very nice, fruity, powdery kind of scent. And we used the Declaration B1 Franklin. Big knot, nice to use this little piece of history here, if you will. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining me. Do consider joining us for Austere August if you're interested. Hopefully next week I'll have a video to talk about the first week of it. So for now, this has been H2 Shaves. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye.